So I found this post on the Pokey Investing subreddit that I wanted to share with you all. Here, somebody is sharing an investing strategy that they have implemented by buying one of everything. So this post is pretty simple. The title is Pokemon Investing. Can't go wrong with one of everything, question mark. And here they show a cabinet of Pokemon product, and they have, I guess, one of everything, maybe multiples of some things. This is a Shrouded Fable collection box. But other than that, it looks like they do just mainly have one of everything. I guess they have two Paldean Fates booster bundles here, but mainly just one of everything. They have a Journey Together booster box, Paldea Evolve, Fusion, Mega Evolution, Twilight, Surging, some ETBs back here, just booster bundles here, and just some random stuff, mini tins, blisters. So just a lot of a variety of things. So I want to talk about sort of the strategy and the benefits of this. So what is this strategy called? It's just diversification, right? Diversification is definitely a thing that's been talked about in the space and just generally in investing, right? Diversifying, you can't go wrong with it. And it's true, right? You can't go wrong with it because if you think about it, okay, if you buy every single set, a product, let's say a booster box or an ETB for specialty sets, one of everything, and you don't skip a single set, you can't lose in the sense that you can't miss anything that skyrockets, right? Let's say, for example, for Sword and Shield, that was Evolving Skies. You could say that for Scarlet and Violet, maybe 151 ETBs, right? If you bought them at $50 at release, they're now 400, so that's what, like 8-9, that's like 8x'd, right? Paldea Evolved was $80, $90. Now it's 400. You can say that with a lot of things. So definitely, or other things with Sword and Shield like Fusion Strike and so on. So definitely diversifying, buying one of everything. You can't miss those high flying sets. But also with buying the high flying sets, you could also be buying some of the low tier sets, which may not perform that well. But what we've seen in history with Pokemon, if you're buying even bad sets at such a cheap price, like for example a booster box at $100, at the end of the day you still can't really lose because Pokemon's still product in history just continues to go up in value, but maybe not as much, maybe not as high of a rate as some other products, but they do go up in value. So just overall diversifying is a safe strategy, and why a lot of people preach it, because the whole thing is you don't know what's going to go up. So just buy a little bit of everything. Now, you guys know sort of my standpoint of this strategy. I don't use it. I don't diversify. For me, and this is just my personal opinion, you don't have to follow what I say, but I truly believe Pokemon is one of those things where it is somewhat predictable of what is most likely to perform. I know that's maybe not the best sort of, I guess you could say, mentality to have of, how can you predict the future, right? Like that's, it's true, you can't predict the future, but there are some, factors you can use to be like, okay, for example, 151. Did anyone really think 151 was not going to perform? Just that's like an example, right? Who in their right mind saying 151 is not going to perform, right? Or 151 is going to perform worse than, let's say, I don't know, Paradox Rift or Obsidian Flames, right? Like there's some things like that where, like, I mean, that's just a very vague and not in-depth comparison or sort of argument, but I think you might get the point what I'm trying to say here. Some things are just so obvious that you can't lose. And I know that sounds bad, but like 151 is an example of that. And I mean, it was, correct, right? 151, it performed extremely well, and it probably will continue to perform. It's already extremely expensive. So for me, that's sort of my strategy. I used to diversify. I really used to in the beginning because it was so preached in the space. But as I started to do research myself and I've kind of looked at what sets perform, well in the long term, I started to notice patterns. I'm like, okay, why would I just to, diversify and I guess reduce my risk or average the risk, right? Why would I do that when some of these sets I know for, a pretty, high, percentage of, certainty that it's probably not going to perform as well as some other ones. For example, Shrouded Fable. Why would I invest into Shrouded Fable? Which is why. Is there that 0.1% chance it outperforms everything? 0.1%? Sure, right? Anything's possible. But it's about the likelihood, and that's why for me, I don't diversify. But I'm not telling you guys to not, because honestly, there's some people out there that have kind of, in my opinion, radical ideas of what a good set is. For example, there's some people that see great opportunity in Shrouded Fable long term. I remember when Shrouded Fable was sort of going up a little bit in price, and so many people were coming out saying how great Shrouded Fable was and how underrated it was. Well, if you bought it when it was $30 in ETB, well, you've done well, obviously. But especially now, I mean, just look at the set and how it's performed comparatively to everything else. I mean, Shrouded Fable, there's just not much to it. So in the long term, I would still say Shrouded Fable, I don't see being a great set or ever really outperforming a lot of these other sets. And I guess that's just my opinion, but, I say, some people do have radical opinions about sets where I'm like, okay, do you really think Shrouded Fable is going to outperform some of these sets like 151 or Prismatic, or I just think it's ridiculous, right? Some people have ideas that other sets are bad when they're obviously not. So that's when it's really hard to say to kind of just I guess generally say to just go with I guess what you think is really good, right? It's really hard to say that, and I guess that's what I'm saying, that is sort of my opinion. But I look at the data though. I look at what's popular, and some things are just so obvious like that. I mean, that's the stuff I go with. For example, that being Prismatic for me, right? Obviously, there's people that don't like the set. There's people say that sucks. But for me, I look at the data. I don't care what people think. I've gone extremely heavy into Prismatic. So that's just an example, I guess, of some people maybe why they shouldn't just go with what they think is good, because some people do have weird ideas of what's good in my opinion. But I guess the best way to put the way I invest is I invest into things that obviously are high value, high sales volume, and things that have it's hard to say this, but obvious factors that it's going to be a very just very good investment long term. Prismatic, obviously, evolutions, god packs, value, all those sorts of things. I mean, to me, that's like an obvious thing. 151, I guess, was one of those as well. So those are the things that I like to invest into. I don't invest into things where it's a low percentage play. For example, Shrouded Fable. Do you think it's a high percentage that it's going to perform extremely well long term? I don't think so. I don't think many people are going to say that. Do I think Paradox Drift is going to be an extremely high percentage play, great long term, outperforming everything else? I don't think so. Stellar Crown. So I don't invest into those. That's just my play and sort of my investing strategy. But definitely, if you're if you don't have maybe a great idea of what is popular or why things are maybe better than others, maybe it is just good to diversify, because then you won't miss any of the high flying stuff. But my personal opinion, I just don't diversify, but that's just me. So let's just read some of the comments here and see what some people have to say. I'd suggest 2 to 3 of everything, because you're never going to want to sell when you only have one. Pretty good point, to be honest. I mean, yes, you are investing, but at the end of the day, I mean, even me, I want to have some quantity for myself just to have it. So for this person, probably at least buying 2 of everything would probably be nice, because in the long term, even if you do want to sell something to make some money, you're not going to have it anymore if you only have one. So I think if you could just buy 2, that'd probably be pretty good. Nobody knows how the market will move, therefore it is smart to diversify. Okay, and this person says, there's just strong indicators, example being Prismatic ability to get a God Pack highest ever modern chase card. This is basically Evolving Skies. And here somebody got more upvotes saying strong indicators equals Redditors who have been in the hobby for 18 months parroting what they are told on TikTok. So this person, honestly, I don't really agree with. They're just saying something. Obviously, people here upvoted because it sounds good. See, that's the thing. It sounds good, but look at the data yourself with Prismatic, okay? Obviously, I invested very heavily. You can say I'm biased, but guys, literally look at the data yourself and you tell me you think Prismatic is a bad investment. Like, seriously, look at the data. I've made many videos about it. If you truly think Prismatic Evolutions is a bad investment in Scarlet and Violet right now, comparative to everything else, I don't know what to tell you. But this person, obviously, I mean, look at their name. I don't agree with this person at all. They're just saying something that is a meme, kind of sounds good on paper, but this person I agree with way more than this person. But that's a big reason why I ignore a lot of advice that people give online, and I just do my own research, because there's people here that just meme and say things that sound good, but in reality, if you actually look at the data, this person is more right than this person, I would say. That's why I try to get 2 to 3 of everything, 1 in case I want to open or move off of, and 2 to always keep in the collection. Sealed is always a safe bet. Even some of the worst sets in the eyes of collectors have made a ton of made me a ton of money over the years. So what do you guys think of this? Do you diversify? Do you not? Like I said, personally, me, I don't diversify at all. I pick the top sets that are performing the best and have the most chances, in my opinion, of being high flying comparatively to others, and that's how I allocate my funds to invest. I don't invest into things that have that slight chance, but that's just me. Do I miss out on some things that go up then? Sure, but I'd say for the most part, if you do pick the popular high value sets with popular Pokemon and artworks, you're probably going to perform pretty well, and that's just my strategy. But you guys can tell me what you do down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.